but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction, or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity without attraction or hatred Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction and hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below. So I'm going to be reading the next two verses and purpose too. They're relatively short, and then speak upon all three of them. Nahi prasyet priyam prapya no dvijat prapya cha priyam sthirabuddhirasam mudho brahmavid brahmani sitaha. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. Purport. The symptoms of the self realized person are given herein. The first symptom, that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called sthira buddhi, or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the complete station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well, without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. It's called Brahman realization or self realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. And then one more verse. Bahaya sparsheshvasak asaktatma vindyatmani yat sukham Sabrahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. Sri Yamunacharya, a great devotee in Krishna consciousness, said, Yat avadi mama chitta cheta pada Krishna padar vinde navanavara sadhamya udhyatam rantumasid tad avadi bhatanari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukha vikara shushtu nishtiva namcha. Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought, and my lips curl with distaste. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under its spell, and the materialist cannot work at all without its motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater and vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. This is the test in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. That was the name of the pamphlet, of what it's called, that was sent out. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of pleasure due to his being a liberated soul. Om Agyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakan Vatamsha He Krishna Karuna Sandho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swamaniti Namine Nija Guru Harivanya Krishna Chitto Vichinto Parihita Pitri Gehadyanda Sangsara Kupaha Prabhu Bhajana Sukabdo Majjayan Swam Savishwo Bhuvijayate Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminati Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Chivakshasi Yasyaste Hridaye Samvittam Nrsimham Aham Bhaje Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so today we are studying these three verses in the fifth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It's called Karma Yoga, Action, and Krishna Consciousness. So, Prabhupada, in the verse number 19, he's speaking about how a person who's attained equanimity of the mind, and how does one attain equanimity of the mind? A person attains equanimity of the mind by having proper vision. What is a proper vision? The proper vision was discussed in the previous verse, where Krishna says, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Ghavi Hastini Sunichaiva Supakicha Pandita Samadarshinaha. That the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, outcast. So, this is a vision that a person who's on the platform of self-realization has to attain. But if a person is not on the platform of realizing the self, if a person does not understand that they are not this body but that the spirit soul, then what happens is they are firmly rooted in the bodily conception of life. They're firmly rooted in the bodily conception of life. And when one is firmly rooted in the bodily conception of life, it is but natural for one to be on a platform called the mental platform. That's why sometimes when we're out distributing books and the authorities try to stop us, they say, why are you guys doing this? We say, sir, please leave us alone. We're helping kids get off the mental platform, which we are. Because so many people are on the mental platform. They're on the mental platform. Sir, please help. We're helping kids get off the mental platform. Adults too. They're like, wow, you guys are really noble people. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Why not? So we are, helping people get off the mental platform. Why are people on the mental platform? Why are people on the chariot of the mind? People are always on the chariot of the mind for this one simple reason, because they don't know better. Because they're completely enslaved by their senses. And it's so amazing that although one is enslaved by their senses, at the same time, they are under the illusion that they are completely in control. This is the most wonderful illusion of all times. That we are enslaved by the senses, but at the same time, we have this misconception that we are completely in control. Our senses are dragging us everywhere. So many people are so proud, thinking that I got everything I can possibly have under control. But in reality, that is completely false. Why is it completely false? For the simple reason. It's completely false because a dead object is controlling a living person. A dead object. Like an example that we can think of is a cigarette. How big is a cigarette? A cigarette is so small. But how many lives of people does it control? So many lives. How many lives has it claimed? So many lives. It's probably the biggest serial killer of all times, But it's a dead thing. How is something dead controlling living people? How is it something dead controlling living people? Because people in the bodily conception of life are completely enslaved by the pulling of their senses. But a person who has conquered this going back and forth on the mental platform actually is very much relieved. Why? Because they understand that they are not this body. I'm not black, you're not white, you're not Indian, you're not Chinese, you're not Japanese. We're not any of these things. We're not tall, we're not short, we're not fat, we're not thin. We're none of these things. We are actually the spirit soul. We are the spirit soul in this body. This body is a car, it's a machine meant to take us from point A to point B. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesha junatishtiti brahmayan sarva bhutani yantarudani maya. That this body is a machine made of material energy. Just like we have a car. Some cars are, anyway, they're all made of more or less the same materials. Similarly, this body is also made of different materials. It's a machine made of different kinds of materials. What kind of materials is a body made of? Krishna helps us understand in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, text number 4. Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kamano buddhiri evacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakriti rastada. That it's chapter 7, text number 4. Krishna says, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these eight constitute my separated material energies. So, this body that we have is made of these different elements in different proportions. So, a person who is completely enslaved by the senses is natural to be completely on the platform of the mind. And when a person is on the platform of the mind, there is no question of elevating from one position to another. Because the mental platform, by definition, the mental platform is not fixed. Then a person's opinion changes so much that that's why one of the great anxieties a living entity can face is the anxiety that arises from mental indecisiveness. You know, have you ever experienced that? The agony of mental indecisiveness that you really don't know what to do. Oh, I think I'm going to go. Oh, no, I'm not going to go. Oh, no, I'm going to go. No, I'm not going. Like you get the text message on Saturday, like, hey, there's going to be a class. And then you're looking at your phone. Should I go? I think I should go. Then you're looking at your phone. Oh, maybe I should not go. Then you say, no, I should go. Then maybe I should not go. And just so much time is wasted in procrastinating on being on the mental platform. Why? Why is it? Because the steady goal is not there. That, okay, I made up my mind to do this. And if you make up your mind to do it, then you won't suffer so much. But the mental state of mental platform is like that a person is always oscillating from one extreme to another. And because the person oscillates from one extreme to another, there is no peace. If there's no peace, where's the question of happiness? There is no fixed goal. The goal always changes. Like I remember you making a point in your class one time that athletes are actually like, they're very depressed at the end of their life because the goal, they may have attained everything that they want to attain as an athlete, but then once they attain the championships or whatever they attain and they retire, there's no other goal because the goal changes. Then now what's your goal? Nothing. What's there? Just watch TV, watch all the games that you played really well at. What's the use? Then you may become a spectator. I remember being a kid, every time, my parents would watch TV and there's this guy called Kapil Dev and he would come on and every time he was on the mat, I'd like, oh, he was such a great cricketer. But, now what's he doing? He's simply talking about someone else playing the game. What's the use? What's the use? They're simply wasting their time because of lack of a proper goal of life. And because there's a lack of a proper goal of life, people suffer. People suffer so much, the lack of a proper goal of life. The goal of life is to become rich. Most likely you're not going to become rich, but even if you became rich, then what? Then what? So many rich people commit suicide. Recently on Google, it came out that like a billionaire tycoon shot himself in his family room in his office. Shot himself. Why? He had everything that people were always looking for, right? But he didn't have it, really. He didn't really have it. The worst thing is when you get what you want and you realize that that's actually not what you really want. It's the worst kind of thing. You could get everything materially as much as you like, but then if one does not have a fixed position, does not have a proper goal, which is unending, which is never ending, which is actually unlimited, then by nature, there's going to be a saturation point. There's going to be a saturation limit. What do you do when you have $1 billion? What do you do? What do you do? Best thing is to engage it in Christian service. But if you have it and you're not engaging it in Christian service, and then everyone around you are just like thieves and jackals trying to steal your money in the name of family, friends, and relatives, then where is the happiness? Where is the happiness? It's not there. It's not there. What's the use? The guy who is living a relatively peaceful life is also happier. A guy who may basically have nothing compared to the billionaire is actually happier. Why? Because there's so much anxiety is not there. No, they can't trust anyone. Is this person talking to me because he genuinely likes me, or is he talking to me because he wants to get something out of me? That is the number one anxiety that a rich person faces. No, this person is coming to meet me. What does he want from me? What does he want from me? A poor man. The example is given. Poor man has no problem sleeping under a tree every day, no problem, no matter what. But then all of a sudden, if someone comes and gives him 10 gold coins, that same poor man who was able to enjoy so much sleep at night now is in constant anxiety. Who is going to come and steal my gold coins? Who is going to come and steal my gold coins? Who is going to come and steal? And so much anxiety develops and develops and develops. Why? Because they're not situated in Brahman. They're not situated in proper, Prabhupada calls this in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness. A person is not situated in Krishna consciousness, therefore they suffer. Therefore they suffer. They're not conscious of God. Therefore, you're not conscious of God, then we naturally have to be conscious of ourselves. And unfortunately, although The advertisements and the motivational speakers and the demotivational speakers and all the people who are speaking, they may make you believe that you are the stuff, you are like as good as it gets and all these things. And it's just time that's separating you, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. But in reality, the more we meditate upon ourselves, the crazier we become, you know. And actually, that is completely proven also. We went to, what's the guy's name? The painter guy, Van Gogh. What? That's how, I don't know how to say it. Van Gogh. Okay, there's a difference of opinion here, but everyone knows. Maybe some people, thankfully, not everyone knows who this person is. He was just an artist, and honestly, his whole life was very depressing. It's a very, very depressing life. And every year, no matter what he did, he would always paint a portrait of himself. Every year, he would paint a portrait of himself, and he's constantly meditating upon himself. And as time went on, this person became completely mad and shot himself in the heart in daylight. And they tried to make it look like that's also art or something, but it's just insanity, It's insanity. Why? Because the more one meditates upon oneself, the crazier one becomes. The crazier one becomes. Why? Because you may meditate upon yourself all you want, but there is a limit to your good qualities. Maybe a good guy, but how good of a guy are you? You may be a sweet person, but how sweet of a person are you? You may be, you may be very philanthropic, this or that and the other thing, but how much of that are you? Because you reach a limitation, then you actually start to go mad. This is the thing. So when one does not meditate upon God, when one does not understand the glories of Krishna, when one does not understand how amazing Krishna is and how much the meditation can be constant, then a person will be lured by these two things. What are these two things? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text number 28, Ichha dvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapaha. Where Krishna says, and we can all see here, it's 727. Parantapa, not parantapaha. Okay, much sure you're right. So, as O sign of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. The reason we're on the mental platform is because we're afflicted by the desires, by the dualities arising from desire and hate. Prabhupada writes this in this purport is attraction and hatred. That desire and hate, we're attracted to something and we are completely repelled by something else. And because of this constant acceptance and rejectance of what we like and what we don't like on our mind, we are on the mental platform. Why? Because we haven't found an object of meditation where all dualities are completely harmonized, where all opposites are completely harmonized. Because we haven't found that object and we're meditating on everything other than the supreme object of meditation and dedication, Krishna, then we are actually subjecting ourselves to accepting and rejecting things of this material world, which by nature are imperfect. Everything that we see in this material world is imperfect by design. Everything. Who is the greatest supermodel right now? What? Bella Habib. Okay, that's how you say it? Hadid. Bella Hadid. I never heard of her. Thank God I'm a good brahmachari, okay? So, Bella Hadid is the greatest, not greatest, whatever, supermodel or whatever. And then Bella Hadid, she may be on so many, whatever, posters, billboards, this, that, and all these amazing things. But how many of those pictures of Bella Hadid are without makeup on her face? How many of those photos did the guy not spend 2 hours working on Photoshop on? Where is the beauty really? If she was so beautiful, then why does she need makeup? If she was so beautiful, then why does the guy need to work 2 hours on the Photoshop? Why? Because by nature it's flawed. It's flawed. The body is flawed. No matter how good we want to make it look, no matter how nice you want to cover it up, the body is flawed. The beauty is flawed. The beauty is limited in this material world. The beauty is limited. Beauty of any person is limited. And let's just say that person was so beautiful that there was no need for Photoshop and no need for makeup. Then the question arises, for how long? For how long? We have some older gentlemen in the room. When you were growing up, who was considered to be the most beautiful woman or man or whatever? Marilyn Monroe. Okay, so many names, there's a difference of opinion, and that's natural because variety is the mother of all enjoyment and mundane enjoyment too. So we can see, okay, you can get a picture of such and such a person from which year were they popular in? In the 50s. Are they alive? Most of them are not alive. Okay. So now, that same body of that same person, what is it, how does it look right now? Do you want to open the casket and look at it? I would not recommend. No, you wouldn't. Why? Because it's all being eaten up. It's gone. It's temporary. This beauty of this material world is temporary. All these things are temporary. Therefore, in order to get off this mental platform and be liberated from the conditions of birth and death, a person must be freed from mundane attraction and hatred. That's what Prabhupada is writing in this verse. That's what Krishna is saying in this verse in the Bhagavad Gita. He's saying that because a person is completely bewildered by the dualities arising from desire and hate, a person is born into this material world because we are going from one platform to another. One platform to another. What's this other verse? Purusha prakriti stohi bhunkter prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangasya sadasad yoni janmashu. That, anyone know the verse number for this? I know chapter 13, verse number. Anyway, I could speculate it. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. You said 6, Chandan? Let's 26. Okay. Yeah, okay. So this verse over here, Purusha Prakriti, so he 43, thank you. 23, okay. Wow. Okay. No. Whoa, what's going on? Okay. 22. Okay. Chapter 13, text number 2. I knew the Sanskrit right, so don't think I'm not studying Prabhupada's books. Okay. So the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets good and evil among various species. So because of this desire and hate, because of this attraction and repulsion of everything material, a living entity suffers. Period. And because it suffers, because of all these things, desire and hate, because of all these things, that is why all the other, what's the right word to use? All these other varieties of desires prop into the mind of the living entity, and the living entity thinks, I'm done enjoying this, now I'll try to enjoy this. And I'm done enjoying this, now I'll try to enjoy this. And I like this, and I hate this, and now I hate this, and I like this, and it goes on and on and on and on. But a person who's able to see everything in relationship with Krishna is actually liberated from the cycle of birth and death. That's why the Chatur Shloki of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the second one says, Ritetam yad pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani yad vidyad atmano mayam yata bhasha yata tamaha. This is a really amazing verse in the second canto, the 9th chapter. It's called Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. This is 2.9.34, right? So, Ritetam yad pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani yad tad vidyad atmano mayam yata bhasho yata tamaha. Oh Brahma, and this we must understand, that what is this illusion? How do we know we're an illusion? The answer is right here. Oh Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Nor does my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. So, if we are looking at something and we are not engaging it, we're not looking at how it can be engaged in Krishna service, or we're thinking how we can enjoy it separately from Krishna service, that is known as illusion. And when more and more one is in such an illusion, the more and more one is grounded in this material conception of life, which has no basis. It has no reality. None of these things, it's temporary. And because it's temporary, it doesn't last forever. And because it doesn't last forever, we will not find the happiness that we want. What is the crux of all our problems? The crux of all our problems is we are looking for eternal happiness in temporary things. That's the problem. We're looking, whatever you're looking for happiness in, they are temporary. They're illusory. They do not last for long. And because they're temporary and illusory, and we are eternal, we are trying to squeeze eternal happiness from something that doesn't last long. How is this going to work? There's a very huge, there's a blunderous miscalculation in our proposition to enjoy life. Because we are investing our time, energy, and everything else into temporary objects, our results will also be temporary, but we're expecting something eternal. And therefore, we are miserable, period. If you're not miserable, Either we are extremely ignorant, like a pig in the wallowing in stool, or we are extremely self-realized, like the great devotees like Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, or those following in their footsteps. So, verse number 19 speaks about that. And verse number 20 of the verses that we read today, Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, text number 20 and 21, speaks about the symptoms of a person who is in this platform of not, who is not on the mental platform but has a fixed goal, has a fixed position. And a person who has this fixed position, the symptoms are given below. I guess I can pull this up again. Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, text number 20, where Krishna says that a person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. So these are some of the symptoms that a person, they do not lament or hanker for something which they're going to lose anyway, right? Is there anything in your life, that in your house that you have right now, that you will not lose at the time of death? Anything? Anyone? Anyone has it? I have it. I don't have a house, so anyway. But we have Prabhupada's books. They go with this life after life, right? Our devotions, all these things. Any Prabhupada's books are there anyway. But yeah, really, really, like, you look at what the things that are in your house, anything that you're going to take with you after you die. Anything. Anything. The clothes on your body, can you take them? No. Can you take your car? Anyone likes their cars? No. What about your bank account? Like, anyone got like a really cool certificate from a really cool university? Yeah? Who said yeah? What's your certificate? History. Can you take your history certificate with you? No, you can't take a history certificate with you. So you leave everything. You're leaving everything. You're going, oh, everyone's heard this before. Like, yeah, you're right. But how many of us act on that platform? That's why, we tell so many people, talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. So many people can say so many things. Oh, I will do this. I will do that. I will certainly show up at 4:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. How many people told us? I will certainly show up at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow. How many people say? But talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. We actually have to get doing. We have to get things done. We have to move in the right direction. If you're not moving in the right direction, if you're not actually doing these, then we're actually going to, suffer in this material world. In order for us to do all these things, we need to have steady intelligence. That's why Krishna uses the word sthira buddhi here. Yeah, there you go. Sthira buddhi asammudho. That one. Sthira buddhi asammudho. That line. Krishna says, if you look at the word for word translation of sthira buddhi asammudho, Prabhupada gives a really amazing thing. Sthira buddhi, self-intelligent, asammudha, unbewildered. This is very important to understand. That if we have steady intelligence, then we will be unbewildered. We will be unbewildered. Self-intelligent means what? Intelligent enough to not be dragged by your senses. That's what it means. That you're intelligent enough that no matter what you do, no matter how you go about your life or do whatever you want to do, then you will not be shaken from your determination to attain the ultimate goal. So many people may have so many theories. The best way, there's a philosophy that if you really want to enjoy this world, there's one philosophy that anyone can subscribe to, and then they can try their level, they can justify everything that they do by subscribing to this one philosophy. And this philosophy is called Mayavad. When a person is infected by Mayavad, or what one could say is the God complex. Everyone's heard this word before, God complex. What does it mean? They think they're God, right? Anything else? Okay, yes, they think they're God. What more? Get a little deeper in it. What does it mean? You don't have tilak. What happened? Okay, so is that give him some tilak? He promised me he'll wear tilak, so give him tilak. Okay. Yes. Anything else? Okay, they think that the creator was happening in the world. What else? You can do whatever. Okay, coming close, but that's there for sure. I mean that's like when you apply, but to enjoy in this world, you don't really. That's not the root of it. Close, very close. Basically, bottom line is we think everything revolves around us, right? And because we think, I'm God, He is God, so if I think this is right, He also thinks this is right, and then there's this God complex that we form around ourselves. And then, bottom line, why are you doing what you're doing? Everything is one anyway. If everything is one anyway, what does it matter? What does it matter? If everything is one, I am you and you are me, then if I do this or if I don't do this, what's the problem? Or no problem. So we come up with this God complex. We come up with this Mayavad philosophy where we think everything is one, where we think we are God, everyone is God. But the minute you say everyone is God, that means no one is God. That's just common sense. If I told you we're all the president of the United States of America, would that work? Would anyone listen? Will one president of America listen to the other president of America? No. It's not going to work. That means no one is. You can sit anywhere you like, or you can stand too. It's up to you. And we can see this, that we can understand that, because of this kind of philosophy that people come up with, where they are completely infected by this God complex, then people suffer in this material world. People are suffering. Actually, they think, oh, everything is one, everything is one. But in reality, it's not one. In reality, it's not one. Everything is one, then pleasure and pain should be the same. How many people will volunteer if they're given like a free trip to Hawaii? So many people will volunteer. Everything paid for, everything amazing. Then how many people will volunteer? Yeah, okay, we're going to take a big hammer and smash your head. Anyone volunteers? No, only crazy people volunteer. Why? If pleasure and pain is the same, why can't we have the same amount of volunteers? No. But these things have no practical standing. They have no practical basis. But when one is infected by this God complex and one does think in terms of all these things, then what happens is they are completely able to justify all the actions that they do. Gross materialism is justified by such an action, because they say, oh, anyway, everything is all one, everything is amazing, everything is like this, everything is like that. And then what they do is they even look at, some people may even know about the beautiful transcendental form of Krishna. And they may think, wow, what are we going to do? Then they come up with this amazing philosophy and idea where Krishna helps us understand Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text number 11. Avajananti ma mudha manushim tanumashitam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. That fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my nature, my transcendental nature as a supreme Lord that be. Then they say, oh, Krishna is not really a person. Krishna is just light. Krishna is just, what really matters is the unborn within Krishna, not Krishna. And they come up with these kinds of nonsensical philosophies, right? So when they come up with these why do they like to do it? Because the minute you remove a person from it, there is no real morality. You don't have to what is moral for one person could not be moral for another person, And, the minute you remove a personal touch from it and you make everything vague, there is more room to do nonsense. There's more room to do things which you would otherwise not do if a person is involved. If you say if you just said, okay, yeah, this person is in charge here. So then at least when you're around that person, you'll try to act nicely. But you just say, oh, there's so many people are in charge here. Everyone is, actually it doesn't matter. The person there's actually no real person. It's just this tube light that's blowing that's shining light upon everywhere. That this light is in charge of everything. The minute you start thinking the light is in charge of everything, then I can behave in whatever way I like. What does it matter? Let's remove personality from everything. Let's remove a personality. The minute we remove personality, then we're free to behave the way that we like. And then what kind of philosophies do we come up with? Well, there's so many philosophies that a person can come up with, but Krishna sums up all these philosophies in one verse in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Asatyam apratishtam te jagadahuranishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kamanyat kama haitukam. And this is verse number... I'll pull it out. I think it's verse number 8. Okay, yes, verse number 8. So here Krishna says, they say this world is unreal with no foundation, no God in control. They say it's produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. How many times have we heard this? So in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. So many different ways, shapes, and forms. So it comes in like this. There was a guy, he wrote this book, Selfish Gene. The whole purpose of us existing is that the gene can just multiply itself over and over again. Then you go, it's like so many different twists and turns in all these things. But its bottom line foundation, the bottom line is this is the philosophy. This is the philosophy. And then ultimately, what happens to all these people? What is the conclusion of all these people? What happens to their hopes? They may have so many hopes. They may have so many desires. They may have so many actions. They may have so much knowledge. What happens to all these things? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Moghasha Mogha Karmano, Mogha Gnana Vicheta Saha, Rakshasim Asurim Chaiva, Prakritim Mohinim Shataha. That those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and the culture of knowledge are all defeated. They're all defeated. And what is the agent that is used to defeat them? Time. Time will come and defeat all things which are not eternal. Anything that is not eternal, any investment that's not eternal, any thought that's not eternal, any activity that's not eternal, is all going to be destroyed by time. But time cannot destroy that which is eternal, that which is Sat, that which is eternal. What is eternal? Krishna is eternal. Krishna's devotional service is eternal. Krishna's paraphernalia is eternal. Activity is done for Krishna and eternal. And time cannot erase that. Time cannot destroy it. Time cannot destroy it. Why? Because that is the nature of something eternal. Something eternal cannot be destroyed. Therefore, a person who really is serious about spiritual life has to understand the stark difference between the needs of the soul and the needs of the body. What, Prabhupada in this verse, in the verse number 21 that we read today, I can read this part again just to refresh our memories. Prabhupada over here says that such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, this is Krishna, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. And then, Prabhupada, the whole purport, we could speak about so many other things, but Prabhupada writes this, that a person in Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under its spell, and a materialist cannot work at all without its motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with great vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is the test in spiritual realization. There you go. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. Why is this the case? Let's understand this point. It may just seem like maybe, how many words is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Only 9 words, right? It may seem like 9 words is something that we read. No, but this has so much depth to it. Has so much depth. Try to understand this. Do not be lazy in understanding the Siddhanta. Bhakti Siddhanta, was that? Siddhanta balya chitte nakaro alas iha haite Krishna lagi Shruti dhamanash. That we should not avoid discussing such points, thinking them to be controversial or thinking them to be disturbing. Why? Because by discussing such points, our attraction to Krishna will increase. But if we don't discuss it, Siddhanta alasajan anartha tu chadina, that a person who does not discuss these things will not give up unwanted things in their hearts. And because they won't give it up, they will not be able to perform service to Krishna. So, spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. Why? Why do they go ill together? They go ill together for a few simple reasons. Then, the more one is completely absorbing themselves in thoughts of sex pleasure, the more one is on the bodily concept of life. The more one thinks, oh, I am this body and I have to enjoy it. I have to enjoy it and I have to enjoy it. I have to enjoy this, I have to enjoy that. The more one is completely infected by lust, the more one becomes completely conscious of all the temporary things of this material world. And when one becomes conscious of the temporary things of this material world, what platform are they on? Mental platform. They're on the mental platform for this reason, because they're completely conscious of the temporary things of this world. And because people are completely conscious of the temporary things of this material world, then everything else, comes out from this one desire to enjoy sex life as much as possible. Krishna says in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, Krishna says that of all the miseries that a person can experience, the person who's constantly chasing after illicit sex pleasure is a person who suffers the most. Why? Because a person who's chasing after such pleasure is constantly objectifying every woman that moves, or every man that moves. They're constantly objectifying. constantly trying to enjoy, constantly trying to, you may even get one object of your pleasure, but then while you're with the object of your pleasure, you're thinking of another object of your pleasure, another object of your pleasure, another object of your pleasure. And then the more one thinks this, the more frustrated they become, the more disappointed they become, the more disgusted they become, with one object, and they go to another object, hoping that they will actually find what they're looking for there. But no, but the example is given that if a person who's actually looking for happiness in things not related to Krishna is like a person trying to find sugar in a salt mine. We may be in a salt mine, we may be thrown around in so many places, and we may try to taste everything in the salt mine. But ultimately, do we receive the taste of sugar in the salt mine? We don't. Why? Because we're in the salt mine. So similarly, a person who's chasing after this mundane sex pleasure, they cannot become completely spiritually realized. Why? Because they're on the bodily concept of life. And we can try to examine this even more. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Dhyayato Vishaya Pumsa, Sangasteshu Pajayate, Sanga Sanjayate Kamat, Kamat Krodo Vijayate, Krodad Bhavati Sammoha, Sammoha Smriti Vibhramaha, Smriti Brahmshat Buddhi Nasho, Buddhi Nashat Pranashiti. Then, where is this? I'm just trying to pull up this verse. Oh, sorry, it can't pass. Okay. So, we see in these, there's a series of verses where Krishna helps one understand how a person who is completely, where is this? Okay, it was 63, that's what it is. Okay, there you go. Dhyayato Vishaya Pumsa, Sangasteshu Pajayate, Sanga Sanjayate Kamat, Kamat Krodo Bijayate, Krodat Bhavati Sammoha, Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha, Smriti Brahmshat Buddhi Nasho, Buddhi Nashat Pranashati. What do these verses mean? While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. Right? Anyone had this experience before? Or is it just me? Anyone? Yes? Okay, just me and Abhimanyu Sutta. Wow. We are in the assembly of the sages here. So, we see that, while contemplating the objects of the senses, we may see so many things that we may like, The grossest example, person may be married, he may have his wife and all these things. And then the person's friend may also be coming and visiting, his best friend may also be coming and visiting his home and doing all these things. But if the best friend becomes such a rascal that he starts to objectify and lust after his best friend's wife, what will happen to his best friend's home? What will happen to his friendship with his best friend, which he's had for many decades? What would happen to the mental state of mind of all these people involved? What will happen to the lives of the kids of his best friend? Why? Why? For what reason? Why? Because of a lack of controlling of the senses. Being completely enamored by lust. And things don't just happen right away. Oh, whoop, right away this happened. No. Usually these things don't happen like that. These things usually take time. Like the example is given of, what's the name of the bug who eats wood? Termites, right, termites. You see, I'm sorry, I forgot the name. I was thinking Terminator because I was like, whoa, that's my Maya from my childhood, just saying. So, a termite, right? So when a termite starts to eat a wooden chair or a wooden table, does it start to eat the wooden table from the outside and starts to eat it inside? No. It enters the wood, and it starts to eat this wood of the table from within, from the core of the table. And he eats it, 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 and he eats it. And then one day you just want to put just want to put your phone on the table, and the table just crumbles and falls apart. You don't even realize that something is going on, but it actually goes on. It's so deep. It's been working on it from the inside. So always when things like this happen, it's because of contemplation of the objects of the senses. The person is meditating upon his best friend's wife. He starts to contemplate. What's it? Okay, do these thoughts come about? Of course they come about. But what is the right thing to do? Smack yourself in your face with a boot. What am I thinking? I'm being such an idiot. Right? Intelligence has to kick in. Intelligent. Why am I having these horrible thoughts? Like, do I not see the consequences? Do I not see the consequences? Do I not see what is going to happen? Do I not have enough intelligence to avoid this situation? You know, this. Don't eat glass. Do I need to tell anyone here not to eat glass? No. Why? Why should you not eat glass, guys? Huh? You will die, right? It's why? Because you use your intelligence and you analyze it. That hey, like it looks good and all these things, but if I eat it, it's like going to like scratch my intestines and I'm going to bleed and I'm going to suffer like anything. So you use your intelligence to realize it. So how much more intelligence should a person who is sober use to distinguish and understand what is a right action and what is a wrong action? How much more intelligence should a person use? But if the contemplation of the object of the senses does not stop, then a person becomes madly obsessive over trying to enjoy a particular object. They become madly obsessive. They become so obsessive. They become really, really like, they start to meditate upon it so much that this lust covers the intelligence. And then when this attachment develops, lust develops, lust will develop so much. Lust will develop that I want to do it. I know I should not do it, but I want to do it. I want to do it. And then from there, anger arises. Why does anger arise? Why? Due to not obtaining it. Or after obtaining it, the anger will arise upon oneself that what did I do? How could I have destroyed this person's home? How could I have destroyed my life, his life, everything? How could I cause so much pain to someone else? Anger arises, And if you don't get it, also anger arises. And then does it stop there? It doesn't stop there. Then what happens? Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhrama, smriti bramshat buddhi nashat pranashriti. From anger, complete delusion arises. And from delusion, bewilderment of memory. And when memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. This is just the way things work in the material world. That the minute we start to lose focus, the minute we start to give our intelligence, our lust, our mind a chance, then everything is completely lost. Everything is completely destroyed. Everything is completely ruined. Why? For what reason? For this reason, that we are put more and more in this bodily concept of life. We're put more and more in this bodily concept of life. Is it a directly spiritual subject to speak about? But no, it is extremely important to understand this point. If we don't understand this point, if we miss this point, then it's completely gone. What is the use? We haven't even gotten the basics right. So we should understand the basics. This is a very important thing to realize. It's not so hard. It's not so hard. Where does the lust sit? Lust sits in all our senses. The sitting place of lust is our senses. Lust is there, ready to act. So a sober person must be very conscious of always checking. They must check, these thoughts are arising in my mind. Let me check them. Let me check them. Let me check them. And constantly check these thoughts. Check these thoughts. Why? Because we know these things are hopeless. What use is there? What benefit is there? What good comes out of these things? No good comes out of these things at all whatsoever. So a sober person will understand and realize that, wait a minute, I cannot do these things. But what does a person really need in order to be freed from these kinds of bestial desires? What does a person need? Person needs a higher taste. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vishaya vinivartanti niraharasya dehina raso varjam rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment through the taste for sense objects, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher pleasure, he is fixed in consciousness. We have to be fixed in our consciousness. In order for us to be fixed in our consciousness, we need to understand how and on what we should meditate on. And we can use our intelligence to realize and understand what is this attraction for the opposite sex. What is it? It's all in the mind. Manasijja. It's all in the mind. There's a story of this Brahmana. Unfortunately, he was a very horrible, lusty Brahmana. he had a very, he had a, unfortunately, he even had leprosy. But then, he actually once desired to have a conjugal affair with a woman who was a prostitute, and she was the topmost of all prostitutes. Topmost, like she was the topmost, and she would, in order for a man to enjoy her, he would have to pay her like 100,000 diamonds or something like this. And she was very popular, and she always had so many customers and all this. And Brahmana was poor, but he was very fortunate. He had a good wife. So the wife, asked him, how are you going to be happy? What can I do for you to be happy? Then he said, I want to enjoy with this woman. Then she's such a chaste wife. She thought, okay, for my husband's pleasure, I can, I'll try to figure out how I can make sure he's happy and satisfied. So what she does is she goes to the house of this rich prostitute, and she starts to clean up her house and decorate her house and do all these incense and decorate it nicely. And over and over and over again, this lady asks her, what do you want from me? Why are you serving me so nicely? I will ask you later. I will ask you later. I will ask you later. And then when she finally asks her, she tells him that, oh, my husband wants to enjoy with you. So then, after some time, she tells him, tells the wife of the Brahmana that I'm going to be busy for the next 6 months, but we can mark a date on the calendar. So then they mark a date on the calendar, and the wife goes and informs the husband, and this foolish man is very, very happy. And every day he's counting the days. Oh, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And then finally the day arrives, and then before, when he goes to meet her, he said, first, why don't you eat something? He said, okay, wow. I'm a poor Brahmana. I usually can't eat nicely. So yeah, I'll eat whatever you feed me. So then she has two containers, or like two different kinds of utensils. One kind of utensils made completely of gold, another kind of utensils made completely of steel. And then in both, she first serves him stuff from the golden containers, and then she opens the steel containers, and it's the same stuff. And she's serving him the same stuff again. And he asked her, why are you serving me the same stuff again? Why are you serving me? And then she chastises him, you fool. The pleasure that you're trying to enjoy from me is the same as the pleasure you're trying to enjoy from your wife. Bottom line, there is no difference. There is no difference. Everything is the same. You just may say, oh, the skin may be a little soft and the hair may be a little silkier. But the bottom line thing is the pleasure is the same. Another story, does everyone here have the book Science of Self-Realization? Yes? Anyone does not have it? Okay, you don't have, you're going to get a good book today, my friend. So in this book, there's this chapter called Truth and Beauty. Anyone remember reading it? You're nodding your head, Amber. What's the crux? Don't quiz me. Okay, all right. But you remember reading this chapter called Truth and Beauty, right? Anyone else remembers reading this chapter called Truth and Beauty? What's the page number on it? Anyone want to pick it up? Anyway, you can go and look at your Science of Self-Realization softbound book if you have it, or the hardbound book. So in this, it's a spoiler, so you guys can read it. It's like a trailer. It's 333? Oh, 33. Of the hardbound? Okay, what chapter is it? Chapter 2, right? Or chapter 1? Knowing the Science of the Soul, chapter 1, subheading, Truth and Beauty. So in this, what happens is there's a lusty man, and he just sees a beautiful girl walking by, and immediately falls on and starts to propose to her. Oh, marry me, I want to be with you, blah, blah, blah. And this girl is thinking, you've lost your mind. What's wrong with you? You don't know who I am. You know where I'm from. You don't know if our charts match. I guess they used to care about these things before. But you don't know anything about me. You don't know anything at all. And you want to marry me? Are you crazy? And then, and then he was constantly, persistingly asking her, please, I want to be with you. So then she says, okay. Do one thing, come to my house in 2 weeks or sometime like that. So then, the man, he's eagerly waiting for 2 weeks. And finally, the 2 weeks period is over. And then he comes to the place where this woman is. And then the girl opens the door. And then when he opens the door, he sees there's a woman who's completely emaciated, her sockets are all bulging out, and she looks very ugly and all these things, and doesn't smell so good. And he's like, I have an appointment with this girl. She told me to come 2 weeks ago, and she said, I am that girl. He said, no, you're not that girl. That girl was so pretty. How can you're so ugly? You're not that girl. You're not that girl. He said, no, I am that girl. So then he said, okay, if you're that girl, then where is your beauty? And she tells him, you go to that room over there, In that room is all my beauty. So then this person goes and opens the door, and there he finds spots where this woman had, like, she had taken laxatives and she had passed stool and she had vomited. And then that's how her body turned out. And he told her, she told him, this is where all my beauty is. Go and enjoy it. Go and enjoy it. Is there really beauty in this world, in this body? I think we're so, wow. Everyone thinks they are like, whoever they may be, it's Habib, Habibi, or whatever the hell. And like this or that. Everyone may think, wow, yeah, I'm totally Brad Pitt. But Brad Pitt is old and ugly now. What happened? Now I'm the new guy, whoever the new guy is, I only know like one actor because I use it on book. My man, excuse me, my man. If it's a white guy, I only have one line for a white guy. It's like, excuse me, my man, you look like the guy from Top Gun. That's the only line I have. And actually, I have a few others, but anyway, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Anyway, I have all these. But we tell them like, wow, everyone thinks that I'm the stuff. I look so good, blah. But where is the truth? Where is the beauty? Where is the beauty? Where is it? Beauty is in Krishna. He is the all-attractive person. By meditating upon Krishna, by focusing upon Krishna, by doing all these things, then a person can be freed from completely indulging in sex pleasure. It can be freed from this. And does this mean we want everyone in the world to become monks? Okay, all the men, we're going to shave you up today and throw you in the ashram. No. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you may be surprised, but we don't say that. I'm just saying it for the haters out there. What's this? What's the verse number for Kamosmi Bharatarshaba? Okay, I guess we're all on the same verse bhav here. So this is, that's chapter 7 for sure. Okay, chapter 7, text number 16. So here Krishna says, Bijam mam sarvabhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatam asmi. Okay, balam balavatam chaham kama raga vivarjitam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshaba. That I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharatas. So, a person in Krishna consciousness does not need necessarily to not accept a wife and not have kids. No. A person in Krishna consciousness can accept wife and can have kids. And there is a purpose for sex life also. The purpose of that sex life is to create Krishna conscious progeny. Can I say a heavy statement? Do I have your concession? Please say yes. Okay. So in the scriptures it says that if a person gives birth to a child and the child does not become Krishna conscious, that child is no better than urine. I had your permission to say this. Why is that the case? Why? Because the urine and the sun comes out of the same place. Now, if the sun does not become Krishna conscious, what is the use? What is the use? So, a person in Krishna consciousness accepts the responsibility of, if they accept the responsibility of married life, and if they take upon a wife and they want to have children, they have to make sure that their children are Krishna conscious. They have to make sure of this. They have to make sure that the child is not a completely gross materialist. It's completely gross. Why? Because that is the duty. That's the duty of the parents upon the children. That everything that the parent is doing must be to bring the child up to become a completely self-realized soul. Otherwise, what is the use? What is the use? That's why the Bhagavatam in the 5th canto, the 5th chapter, I'll pull up this verse too. It's a really amazing verse. It's a very sobering verse. What to do? Spiritual life is sobering. What can I say? Spiritual life is sobering. What to do? This is how it is, Spiritual life means a person must be sober. A person must learn to make proper decisions in life. Otherwise, what to do? Guru na sasyat, svajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan, na patishya sasyan, namocha yedya samupeta mityum. This is Bhagavatam 5:18. So, it says, one who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. This is the primary duty. This is the primary duty. Yes, You have to take care of your children and do all these things, do it. But what is the point if the main thing is missed? I'm performing my dharma by taking my kids to the movie. No, you're not. We see this over here. That's why the Bhagavatam says, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshije ahaitukya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. We see this over here. The supreme occupation, dharma for all humanity, is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. This is what the Bhagavatam. This is a primary occupation of everyone else. Everyone may have so many different secondary occupations. A person may be a Uber driver, a person may be an IT guy, a person may be a housewife, a person may be this, that, whatever your duties may be. A person may be a cop, a person may be this, whatever. But the primary occupation should be to develop loving service and loving devotion unto the transcendent Lord. If that is not there, if the main thing is not the main thing, which is the service to Krishna, if that's not the main thing, and everything else but the main thing becomes the main thing, then we will be lost in trying to enjoy this material world. We will be lost. We will become complete slaves to this kind of horrible life. That's why the most important verse, from this, if you understand this verse, then the entire crux and the philosophy of the Vedas and Krishna consciousness and everything in the world can be revived by understanding this verse. Atmendriya priti vancha tare balikam Krishnendriya priti icha dhare premanam. The desire to satisfy the senses of oneself is known as lust, whereas the desire to satisfy the senses of Krishna is known as love. That is the difference between lust and love. The minute we try to satisfy our own senses, then we are completely under the grips of lust. Whereas the minute we try to satisfy the senses of Krishna, then we're completely on the platform of love. So one may say, "Oh, Prabhu, but we are inflicted by so many lusty desires. So am I. What is the solution? What is the solution?" The Bhagavatam says, if one is inflicted by lusty desires, all one has to do is one has to look at the beautiful smiling face of Krishna and meditate upon his beautiful eyebrows. And it works. You can try it out for yourself. Look at the beautiful smiling face of Krishna and meditate upon his eyebrows. Look at the beautiful transcendental lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna's toenails are so beautiful. You can see them. They're like red rubies. They're like red rubies. They're so beautiful. And by meditating upon the transcendental lotus feet of Krishna, all of these lusts and all these things are completely quelled. You can try it out. If it doesn't work, call me a hoax or call me a scammer or whatever. But you should eat a full plate of prasadam before you do that. And then you'll think twice. So this we have to understand. By doing these things, then, this is a process. It's given to us. A person will actually experience the highest happiness. A person will experience this, will have the experience of getting off the mental platform and being fixed, having resolute determination. Their God complex will completely be destroyed because they understand who Krishna is. A person will understand, I'm after all an insignificant servant of Krishna. And my duty is to serve him. And from this service, real happiness comes about. So I'll end the class over here. If there's any questions, comments, or I expect protests too, we can take them now. Anyone? You can raise your hands. Anyone want to break the ice? Chandan, Acharya Prabhu, monk coach.
Hare Krishna. So, you're mentioning about these Mayavadis. Strict Mayavadis, though, seem to be quite different.
Yeah, right. Sigma, but you see, if Sigma Mayavadis seem to be different from sense gratifiers, right?
Right. The aspect you're speaking about, they specifically don't go in the route of you can do whatever you want. They're more strict than our
The Mayavadis are very strict, but if you read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and all these things, there's a technical one. But when Vishnu is instructing Shiva to go spread the Mayavad philosophy, do you know why he asked Lord Shiva to spread the Mayavad philosophy? To increase the population of this world. Because the end result of Mayavad philosophy is do whatever you want, because it doesn't matter. That's how it boils down to. The Sikh Mayavadi, oh no, you're enjoying like hogs and dogs, blah, blah, blah. But it ends up as gross sense gratification. Buddhism too. Everything is nothing, so I can go and do whatever I want and everything is fine. It's the same thing. So that's the bottom line of it. Does it make sense?
Just in my observance of like seeing that, especially people like the famous ones like Shivananda, and
Mm.
they're there, they. I mean, I can see how that leads down that line because like that impersonalism and voidism is so much prominent in the West, and that's why that's
Hmm.
there. But like with that line, like even Buddhists, they're really like full on about that.
So if you look at the population of the people who subscribe to these philosophies, how many of them are full on and how many of them let loose? If you just do a statistically understand that point, you'll see. There's so many of them. Most of them just let loose. Like so many. How many people claim to be Buddhists? How many people? Everything. It all boils down like that.
Then it
Huh?
gets a little controversial. Then doesn't that kind of same thing with our own society too, to
Yeah.
some extent?
Yeah. Why? Because the goal is not there. They're not listening. I anyway. We can talk about it in the Bhagavatam class. Anything else? Yes, Sunil. Good to see you. Hare Krishna. Please turn on the mic.
Yeah.
Please turn the camera too. Thank you.
Yes.
We want everyone to see you.
I think that's
Yes.
fine. So I understood that a father's duty is to help the son also get into Krishna conscious.
Yeah.
Um, like, what is the other way around? Like, what is the son's duty on to like help his father?
Oh wow, he's turned the tables. the, the son's duty would be to firstly, once the father trained the son properly, then the son's duty is to make sure that he facilitates for the parents to go back home, back to Godhead. Bottom line, it's a longer thing, but you can. Vishnu, you want to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, when you go to the seventh canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the story of Prahlad Maharaj, where his father Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill him. So after Hiranyakashipu the demon was slain by Lord Nrsingadev, who's incarnation of Krishna, Prahlad Maharaj prays for the deliverance of his father to Nrsimhadev. And at that time, Nrsingadev replies, he said, Prahlad, what about your father? 14 generational members of your family have been liberated just because you are a pure devotee. So when the duty of the son is to not just to his parents, but to literally 14 generations of his family lineage, they all get liberated. They all get liberated when he goes back home, back to Godhead. The same incident
Yeah.
is also found in Dhruva Maharaj's story in Suniti. So the point is, when we become pure devotees, we practice. We're all children of, a mother and a father. When we become pure devotees, we automatically liberate our parents. Even if they were never Krishna conscious. What to speak of great grandfather and great, we never knew. All of them get liberated as well. They all get the mercy because Krishna is so pleased with the devotee that he feels just like if I become your best friend, then if you have a friend, I feel connected to him. So Krishna feels that connection with all the family members of all of a devotee, and out of his extraordinary mercy and happiness, he liberates all of them. He gives them kripasiddhi. This is the best thing a son can do to his parents.
And also, why does a man have a son? Putra Pindya Prayojana. That a person, a man has a son, so he can deliver him. Putra, son, name for son in Sanskrit is Putra, right? Pu means, there's a certain kind of hell known as Pu, and Tra means to liberate. So Putra Pinda Prayojana. So the duty of a son, this guy knows to call me at the worst times. I even kept it down, do not disturb. See the determination. So, we see that the duty of the son is there's a hell known as Pu, and Tra is to liberate. The duty of the son is to liberate the father and all the ancestors from this kind of hell. Putra Pinda Prayojana. Anyone else? Hold up. Anyone else? Yes. To become Krishna conscious. Yeah. Anyone who becomes Krishna conscious, they deliver the whole thing. Krishna consciousness is awesome. Yes. Go for it. Let's hear it. Let's go. No, the audience online, they may need it.
Do and I don't know if I'm asking this right, but do Krishna conscious have a wife?
Yeah, I just spoke about that.
Oh, sorry.
A person in Krishna consciousness, yes, they're allowed to have a wife and and enjoy and have home and all these things, but it's just that sex life is not meant for recreation, but it's meant for procreation, and that's how it's engaged. But everything else, is there: wife, house, kids, all that stuff. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Anything else? Oh, we're out of time. I'm good. This is it. Okay. All right. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for your kind attention. Shri Prabhupada